poem is called We. Identity. Think about this word for a moment. I have an entity. I, you, we. Let's put a sex on this I, she. Let's put a name on this she, Ria. Let's put a race on 20-year-old Ria from India, brown. Voila, you have an identity. Sex, name, age, nationality, race. I bet you have many other labels too. We hold on to these labels. He, she, they, black, white, Asian, American, as if they will somehow define us. We hold debates. We write angry poems, hold products on capitalism, nationalism, colonialism, and a million other isms, as if somehow they will make the pain of our human existence more important than theirs. Why does suffering have to be a celebration? We. I know you don't like this word. It makes you uncomfortable. I can see you squirming in your seat already. It scares you. I can see you forming arguments in your head against me. It makes you afraid. It dissolves the line between you and I, him and her, black and white, Asian and American, and makes us. Tell me, friend, are your labels the same ones that weigh you down at night with their countless terminologies and divisions as you struggle to sleep? Do they make you different from that Asian guy in your math class when you both reach out for that shot of vodka trying to forget these same definitions? What makes your need for validation any different from that heterosexual as you both later grind against a drunken stranger in drunken stupor? What makes you different from me when you say water and I say water, when we both sound the same underwater? We. I know you're still afraid of that word. I know you are not willing to let go. I know you're still clinging to those 3 words you've been repeatedly taught and told. I love you. I know that you're terrified that if you let you and I drop, only one thing remains: love. And we certainly cannot have that.
I had written this poem during my freshman year of Vassar College. Being an international student, I didn't understand the multitude of terminologies that my American peers so easily seemed to grasp. My anger at feeling excluded resulted in a catharsis that was this poem. I wondered if others felt like me.
I'm an international student who is black, who has an American passport and who's lived all around the world. And I found that upon coming to Vassar, that there was a way in which people expected me to understand my race because of the color of my skin, right?
At Wesleyan, and people were like, "Oh, you're a student of color." I was like, "What?" The last time I checked, I was Puerto Rican. Like, this is new to me, right? I knew I was Latina, but this term, being a woman of color and being a student of color, is very new to me.
Growing up in Tokyo, where I was not the white majority, I was the minority, and I knew I was white, but coming to America, where I suddenly became the majority, and people expect me to act as a part of the white majority here. And
listening to my peers, I wondered, are the assumptions and labels that Westerners take to be universal, in fact, a byproduct of their culture? On Vassar's campus is the creation of a safe space that promotes dialogue about these labels. Really safe? And lastly, if we look beyond these labels, how do we promote intercultural competency?
I don't know, sometimes I feel like it's hard.
I'm just so not used to those like conversations, and I just felt strange because I didn't really I wanted to participate, but I couldn't really because I feel like we were not on the equal levels.
The words, the issues that are dealt with over here, and the way that they're dealt with is very different from at least my context. So even words like oppression or racism mean something very different from what it means to me back home.
A part of it is language, right? The way we talk about social constructs in this country, whether that they are gender or around LGBTQ issues or they're around race. ableism, things like that. These are not the language in which these things are discussed tend to be very direct sometimes, and they hold specific meanings in this context, in this American context. And there is this assumption or this expectation that people engaging in these conversations always have this base knowledge.
There are some kind of concepts and keywords that keeps jumping out in the dialogue, in the conversation. And so after being immersed into that kind of dialogue for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, we will learn to use that kind of words too. So, and we don't know about the definitions, but then we through what people talk about those words, we learned that like how those words are usually connected with certain experiences, certain classes, certain other kind of languages. So I think sometimes it's a process of imitation. We start to connect those words with our own experiences, and I think that's a process that we thought we have understood the concept.
Like I feel like because I don't know anything about these issues, I'm just gonna say something totally ridiculous, and everybody else is like already so so trained. I don't know, so good at it.
That's where the meat and the real soul of conversations are, because that's where people are usually hesitant to bring it up, whether it's because of fear. I don't want people to think I don't know what I'm talking about, or I'm uncomfortable. And those are usually the real conversations, because what happens at Vassar and some people's experience is that people then make it so academic and so everything's about theory, and I'm like, what are we talking about? So it doesn't feel like we're having an honest conversation at that point.
In interviews with international students, I heard their inability to navigate the safe spaces at Vassar due to their lack of knowledge of the terminologies and language used in those spaces. These instances throw light on the multiplicity of meanings that even a shared language such as English can possess, given its context and usage, as illustrated by Shitzi, who used her own experiences to relate to the big words she so frequently heard. Shitzi was crossing the cultural borderlands by using her lived experiences as context for the big words such as social justice and identity. At the same time, she refers to imitation, another trait illustrated by Rosaldo, in whose book Culture and Truth we see the parable of the endless conversation, where people enter an ongoing conversation in the room, learn more about the topic of conversation through modeling and imitation, as Shitzi mentioned, and leave. Through these interviews, we see how the language that can often seem universal, its users often fail to recognize how its context can limit and obscure intercultural distinctions that often cannot be slotted into pre-existing schemas. This can also be read as a form of ethnocentric Western colonization through the othering of differences among individuals and cultures via labels that more often than not dehumanize and deaden lived experiences. Access to this language and form of understanding puts the user in a place of privilege, which causes his or her subjectivity to obscure those unprivileged or unfamiliar with this language. We thus see how these dialogues are in fact a subtle interplay of habitus, power dynamics, and ignorance.
It relates to something that I spent a lot of time studying, which is the phenomenon of intercultural competence, which is really about being able to kind of get up. So a real life example of it would be for me to get up, if I could, and go over there and sit inside you where you are and see through your eyes. So to get how you perceive the world, another person from another culture, through your eyes. So not my ideas about, not kind of through my filter, because everyone's got a filter wherever you're from. You've got your own filter. So the whole idea is to get rid of your filters and to be able to see someone's worldview and how the world shows up to them through their.
To bridge these gaps, the Office of International Services came up with a brand new program called Social Justice 101 for international students, where they would be educated on different terms such as oppression, privilege, class, social justice, and more. Students were asked to write their thoughts about these words on a sheet of paper, much like a Rorschach ink blot test, to gauge their knowledge of these terms. A Q&A session followed the discussion, which allowed students to voice their concerns freely without the fear of being politically incorrect. After the discussion, this is what the students had to say.
So, what did you think about this discussion?
I mean, it was good.
It was useful, and it also really helped in terms.
I definitely think that it needs to happen more frequently, and I think that it needs to be a campus-wide discussion.
I thought it was a good first step, I guess.
Do you feel like VASA should have more events and discussions like these?
Yeah, I definitely think they should.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I think if you had these, like at orientation or maybe in the middle of the first semester when people are like adjusting into school, it would be good.
For my project, I used the methods of participant observation, interviewing, and visual representation of events for pursuing my research question. Bronislaw Manilovsky informs my participant-observer approach, through which I attempted to immerse myself in the imponderabilia of daily life to uncover hidden meanings in my day-to-day interactions that might have otherwise been missed through pure observation. Clifford Geertz guides my analysis of construable signs and symbols as I attribute American culture to them. I also draw from Meyerhoff in the sense that I am studying international students. I wish to illustrate how the intersection of subjectivities of multiple lenses can create opportunities for intercultural appreciation and growth, which is often hindered due to the need of a common language and rhetoric. Ultimately, my goal is not to divide but to unite by providing a lens of what the grass looks like from the other side.